Welcome to the Independent Characters episode 202.5
and 3/4.
Jody's here with me. How's it going, Jody?
Good. Glad to be here.
Josh has been very sick. Now, apparently the way I write that leads people to believe the wrong thing. I don't know if you saw that.
I missed this.
I was like, we are deeply saddened.
Oh.
And people are like, oh my God, what happened? I'm like, I really shouldn't have wrote it that way.
No, he's just producing nurglings from both ends. It's bad.
I did not need to know that. So Josh is still sick, unfortunately, or at least not healthy enough to come back and record with us. So I told Jody, let's pivot to something else. I've got an idea we had an idea for a much larger episode, but we're going to kind of condense that to this episode. And it'll be a shorter episode here. We still plan on recording with Josh very soon, so we're not going to wait hopefully the full 2 weeks to get the next episode out. But so this episode's not about Necromunda campaigns. I've also recorded, by the way, a half hour with the 40K Badcast guys for that episode.
Awesome.
So we'll all of that in the next episode. But this episode, we're going to be talking about, so we did this series called Champions of 40K, where we had Heroes of the Imperium and Enigmas of the Xenos and all that stuff, and Villains of Chaos, or I don't remember what I called Champions of Chaos. Anyway. The fourth episode of that series was going to be, we pick two Black Library characters. We would kit bash one of those characters together and then talk about how we would play. We would bring that kit bashed and painted model to the recording. And then we would talk about how we would play this character on the table, like what rules we would use to represent the character, et cetera, et cetera. We'll probably eventually do something like that. But the fact that you issued the challenge last time as a kit bash,
it worked out real nice.
I was like, you know what? Let's kind of speak about the process of what we went through, how we would represent this model on the table, the background we have for this model, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll turn it into kind of a mini episode until we can get Josh here to do the Necromunda campaigns episode. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Other than that, there's going to be, kind of a full partial episode. I have kind of limited gameplay going on right now, but
March is fun.
This has been a brutal couple weeks. But before we jump into that, I just want to announce that our sponsor of the show is none other than Julian Horvath, who is one of our fantastic Patreon sponsors, and I just wanted to thank you very much. So, Julian, thanks, and this show is all about you, but not really.
But thank you to all our sponsors.
But thanks, thank you to all our sponsors. Okay. So let's just leap right into Elite Choice. Do you want to go first?
I am happy to go first. Mine is totally self-serving, though. I'm going to be real upfront about this one.
Okay.
It's Lars again. Just kidding.
God, it can't be. He just posted he doesn't have any friends.
Well, that's why I'm trying to build him up, man. All right. Actually, my real Elite Choice for this fortnight or whatever it's been is Bob Simons. Bob posted 3 separate responses to episode 202, our extreme narrative gaming episode.
That's right.
And one of them was about...
They were pretty lengthy.
They were lengthy, yeah. They were really well thought out, which is what caught my eye, is that it wasn't just one response, but 3, and they all really... He really went in depth about his views and his opinions. Yep. One of them was about the word game triggering a competitive mindset immediately and trying to consider... when you play, maybe there's another way to approach a game other than just smash face and win. He had some really cool ideas about narrative pickup games that you could how you could get a narrative beat going on a pickup game. A lot of what we talked about in the extreme narrative episode was, having a plan before you come up to the table and ways you can do with that. And then another option was working with command points being generated from your kill team game. I thought that was a really interesting spin on how to build narrative into the game. And I just also want to say, beyond Bob's trio of awesome posts, the overwhelming feedback for me on that last episode, I really enjoyed reading those comments, both positive and critical. Those who gave kind of some critical feedback about
their thoughts on what competitive means and what narrative actually means.
Right.
And I think I came away from that, like some of it changed some of my opinion too, that like how you each define narrative is really like there's no one definition.
Sure, of course.
And I think that's probably why it's so hard to wrap kind of the thing around. Look, and for those who listen to the Patreon episodes, they know that episode was not without controversy, even within our gaming group, right? There were people who were, hey, I disagree entirely with what you've said. And I still stand by everything we said. I listened to it again, and I strongly agree with everything we said. If I had to be critical of the episode, I would say probably the first third of it, we were probably a little I think we got too focused on what is competitive, and we should have just moved on from that a little bit, because that wasn't really our point. We were trying to do a comparison, I think, between the two. Right. It was really the point. And you can't really, when so many people come to the game as a competitive game, I don't feel like you can ignore that there's that piece of it.
Sure, absolutely not.
And so if you're trying to walk somebody from that state to the narrative state, you have to start with, well, okay, this is how you see it. This is how I think you see the game. I want to take you over here, and why that is not necessarily, in my mind, the most fun way you can have playing this game. I want to convince you this other way.
Right.
I think we could have moved off of that topic a little sooner.
I think that's probably fair, and I don't disagree with that at all. And I think it's just a matter of like you initially said there, competitive gaming is pretty clearly defined. There's a few different specific ways you can approach it.
For sure.
Whereas narrative gaming, as we talked about, it's hard to define. So seeing this overwhelming outpouring of comments of people being excited about narrative gaming, and being, like I said, overwhelmingly glad to have that opportunity to speak about what their groups are doing or things they want to build. Or I loved seeing all the missions come across the community page and people designing missions or getting feedback. And I tried to chime in on as many of them as I could.
And it kind of is our demographic.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, no, I have no delusions that I'm preaching to the choir here.
It is, well, it's the fastest download episode of 2020, but it's also probably in the last 6 months, like it's one of the fastest downloaded episodes. It ramped up. It exceeded the Apocalypse one, which we honestly, I think, spent more time preparing for the Apocalypse one than we did for this one. But I mean, it launched past it within 4 or 5 days. It was fast. Wow. So I mean, yeah, I think it's a great episode. Honestly, I stand by it. So
yeah, as do I. I don't back off. From the opinions I had there. I would say please listen critically and be
to the whole thing.
And if I did say something that hurt somebody's feelings, I do apologize. That certainly was never my intent. But Bob, I want to thank you again.
It was mine. I was like, I want to hurt somebody.
You heard it here, folks. You know what? That's a beautiful segue, though, to your elite choice.
It sure is. It sure is. My elite choice is from Isaiah Gittins, who has converted this Angron in demon form. And the picture I have in here, he's still painting it, but he's now finished it, I think. Good God, what a conversion. I mean, since we were talking about conversions and stuff, and this is really like there's a lot of green stuff involved in it. The position, just everything about this model that he has done is amazing.
Really taking the Bloodthirster and building from that into something truly unique and special. It's a fantastic piece of artwork in its conversion and design.
And he's literally taken a picture of Angron and then tried to get as close to that as he could, like the braided hair and everything. I think it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a fantastic job. That's, I think, the detail of all the many details that I love about it. The crown of spikes behind him on his back.
Yeah.
And then the hair, the tendrils of hair or biomechanical inputs, the butcher's nails as they are. The butcher's nails.
They're probably like, those fireworks, the snakes that are like the little things that you light and then they're just ash, but they grow. I'm wondering, because like he doesn't quite look, obviously they're not that big in him as a when he's in Primarch form. So I'm wondering if they just like grew and expanded as he was,
I don't know.
This is kind of cool. I never really thought about it.
I had neither.
It's a great model.
Yeah, this is a fantastic job. It's for such an iconic character. It just captures it. There's no doubt when you look at this, you don't go like, oh, cool, Bloodthirster. You go, oh, that's Angron.
Yeah, totally nailed it. Totally nailed it.
Indeed.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back, and then we'll launch into some hobby progress. So we will be right back.
Matt here to welcome you into 2020 and tell you about an amazing new offer from Table War. All returning customers receive an extra 10% off Table War's US web store. Need a tower case? 10% off. Need a new fat mat? 10% off. Need a macro mat, geomat, or just some accessories? All 10% off. This offer starts January 1st and will continue on throughout 2020. No coupon required. Just ensure you have an account and this discount is automatic. This is our way of saying thank you to all of our loyal customers. So visit us today at tablewar.com. Table War. Table War is a registered trademark of Table War Designs, Inc., all rights reserved.
All right, and we're back. And let's kick this off with a little bit of hobby progress. So my focus has been this Kit Bash challenge that you threw out. And I'm going to talk about them a bit more at length. But interestingly enough, so I'll explain a little bit now. When I started off with the Black Legion project from the get-go, my intention was this is going to be my Chaos version of what I used to have as my Ultramarines, right? It will be a long-term project that I continue to grow over years and play and develop. Now, one of the cool things about the Black Legion is Abaddon has lieutenants. And I was like, it'd be cool if he has a lieutenant, each representing one of the 4 Chaos gods. I mean, where have we seen that, right?
Yeah, there's that iconic piece of art.
The Hounds of Abaddon are one of these corn worshipping, war bands that work under the Black Legion. Their lieutenant is this guy who, at the time I was like, I don't know who he is, but clearly there's somebody. I like the scheme. I like Berserkers. I think they're kind of cool. I'll do something there. I have an idea for what I want to do for a Tzeentch force. I have an idea for a Slaaneshi one, et cetera, a Nurgle one. But I wanted to start with this one. And so my original plan was I'll use Lord Zuffor from Forge World as the base for this Terminator Corn Lord. Maybe I'll Kit Bash that up a little bit, but I'll use that as my starting base. And I'll get into why I didn't do that. But ultimately, I Kit Bashed this Corn Lord for me to represent my champion there under Abaddon, and I'll go into his background stuff later. But then, fortunately, you can't have like a Corn Lord without some Berserkers to go with him.
Yeah, he's got to have his homies.
Colin was super nice and sent me over, because I couldn't buy any more the Forge World Berserker heads. They weren't for sale. So Colin sent me over the heads, the shoulder pads, the backpacks, the axes, and then using those and combining those with the new Chaos Space Marine kits, I came out with some pretty awesome looking Hounds of Abaddon.
Sweet.
That I'll use. And like one shoulder pad is a corn symbol. The other one's just blank, so I can put the Black Legion symbol on that one. I'm going to paint them black except for that shoulder pad, which I'll airbrush red, and maybe the head red, and then that'll be pretty badass.
Yeah, should be sweet.
So I got 4 of the 5 of those guys done. The 5th one I had to go buy another set of Chaos Space Marine box because I had used the champion for another thing, and I wanted to use the champion stance for kind of the aspiring champion or whatever he's called now.
There you go.
For that group. So I have to build that last guy, but I really like the way they're coming out. So that was me. That was all my hobby progress.
Well, I'm glad that worked out for you, because I know when I initially laid out the challenge, I think you said like, it better be on my list.
Well, I made it up. It was out there on my list. At some point I was going to do this, and I was like, initially I was like, you know what, I'll build that Tzeentch Lord, but I've got so much Thousand Suns stuff. I was like, let me diverge and do something different. So,
well, that's the beauty of Chaos Undivided, right? It holds all possibilities. You can go any direction. You're like, I painted enough blue. Let me grab something red.
Honestly, it's one of the things I love about the Chaos Space Marine book is that depending upon how you play it, you get a totally different experience each time.
Right.
So
yeah, and as a demon player, same thing, right? Especially because I'm so mono focused.
Yeah.
When I play Corn Demons, it's
so I also made a purchase. Chaos Space Marine box set, which as if I didn't have enough of them.
I pretty much just focused on the challenge myself.
Right.
I got my guy done. He was pretty involved. I'll talk more about that in a minute. I did finish one other thing that I realized at the last minute. My Necromunda gang, when we did our Necromunda day here, wasn't fully done. It was more
the heresy.
I know. Well, thank you.
They are heretics.
I thank you for Doug and Matt both walking over to the table. I think at least twice each throughout the day going like, what's wrong with your bases? Because I had them just on black bases.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, well, thank you. I had them just on black, clean bases.
Right.
Which is actually a look I like a lot. Just a clean black base, nothing on it. Really taking the victory lap to its full expression all the way over the top. But yeah, I did get them fully finished with extras, with extra bodies. Was happy with how that project wrapped up. I say wrapped up, but it's Necromunda, so I'm gonna need a guy with like a third arm growing out his forehead at some point for some reason.
Oh yeah, I also bought the House of Chains set, the book, the cards for the Goliath gang, and the they have a new box set with like not Jews. I can't remember what they're called, but they're like up and coming.
Yeah.
And then Brian did a Forge World order, so I got the Sump Croc.
Nice.
And I got the Zerker guy, like the huge Zerker guy. So I'm fully invested in Necromunda. I really enjoyed that game.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to play with. I can see why people are passionate about the game.
Yeah,
I can see some. It's it's not for everybody.
It's not perfect, but it is a fun game.
It is very fun. I am really anxious to see those Necromunda house books.
Yeah.
If they do solve the problem of needing multiple books just to play.
I don't know if they do. I haven't looked.
There's been some comments that at least all the weapon profiles you need are in that book, and all your units are in one place. That alone,
that's pretty meaty. I have to say, mine's still in the shrink wrap. Like I've brought it to work 3 days in a row in my backpack. Work has just been so busy.
Can relate.
Never get a chance to even open it.
Yeah, we've had family coming in and out of town. It's my wife's birthday this weekend. It's our anniversary coming up. Adepticon's coming up. So it's been...
and you'll hear this in the next episode, but you know where you can find more information about that House of Chains thing? Goonhammer, where Dan Boyd writes an article about it all the time with his friends. So
shocked. You're saying the Badcast guys are involved in Necromunda?
Very much so.
I did not realize.
For all your Necromunda needs.
Badcast and Goonhammer.
They do call it the 40K Badcast, but it's more the Necromunda Badcast.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it's because they're good at Necromunda.
We are going to get our butts handed to us.
Yeah, it's going to be
at Adepticon. We're supposed to play a challenge game against them, Jody and I, against Dan and Campbell, and it's going to be brutal.
If I lose, at least I can talk trash the whole way down.
Okay. Well, I've got some insight into what they're going to do, so maybe we can do something to overcome that.
There we go.
All right.
I don't think we can.
No. Keep hope alive.
That's right. Setting the bar low, just like Calvin taught me. Yeah, so let's get into the challenge.
Yeah, well, first, I talked about a little bit, I guess I kind of leaped ahead. I talked a little bit about the conversion of my model there. So here's what I went with. So the character that I have is a character by the name of Threxos Hellbreed. And he is the master of the Hounds of Abaddon. The previous one, as I'll go into a little bit, when I go into the lore, died during the Cadia stuff. So this guy kind of took over. Now, the interesting thing about this, and this kind of leads into the conversion itself, is he is well favored by Khorne for these like successful boarding raids he has done against enemy vessels. And he's also like the commander of Abaddon's fleet, which seems weird to me that a Khorne guy is like the commander of a fleet. Like I always picture like fleet tactics probably requiring more nuance, but
Khorne holds all possibility. Chaos holds all possibilities.
That is true.
It's not just bros all the time, man.
That is true, and we have talked about that. And probably the amount of damage you can cause with a StarCraft is probably significantly larger than with an axe.
Right. A big part of Khorne is tactical acumen and mastery of the craft. Also, if they're called the Hounds of Khorne, that imagery Hounds of Abaddon, but that imagery of hounds not only is prevalent within Khornate imagery, but also that notion of like fleet. The fleet
that's
working
very
like
true.
A pack, maybe.
That's very true. So you know what? You're right. I have a very narrow-minded vision of that.
I always fight the Khorne argument. It's like it's not just bros. I mean, there's a lot of bro, but not just.
Bro.
They don't skip leg day or their homework.
So, so I was like, well, I was going to start with this Terminator base, Lord Zufor, who's a fantastic model, by the way.
Which is a cool flex, by the way, that you're like, I'm just going to carve up this Forge World dude.
Yeah, okay. It gets better as a flex. I was sure I had bought him. I tore apart every cabinet in here looking for it, going, I swear to God, last time I was at Warhammer World, drop that plug, that I bought him specifically for this purpose. And so then I went through the garage where I have, more boxes of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm searching through there and I'm like, God, and I'm getting angrier and angrier and I can't find him. Finally, I'm just like, forget it. Maybe I'll just make him in a Chaos Space Marine armor. And then as I'm kind of looking, I'm looking at this Havoc box set that I have. Now the Havocs are a bit bigger than regular Chaos Space Marines. They go on 40 millimeter bases. They have they didn't skip leg day.
No.
They're taller. They're pretty beefy. And I'm like, I wonder if I could use the Champion Havoc guy here as the base for this guy. And in fact, I have a bunch of Chaos. Oh, what led me to it was, doesn't that Chaos Lord from the Blackstone Fortress have a shield? And I went and I looked and no, he doesn't. He carries a Thunder Hammer. Mm-hmm. And I was like, Chaos guys can't carry shields. And I go, but what if I treat him as a Chaos Terminator, but I put him in this armor and I give him a shield, basically representing the extra, protection he gets. Mm-hmm. Plus I have this fantasy Chaos axe that I can put in his hand. I was still bummed because I wanted to use the one of the Zufer heads for him, but I couldn't find that. So I ended up finding a head that I like. I put that on there and and I'll put this Khorne banner behind him on his base. And by the end, all the posing and everything, I was super excited. I used a Khorne logoed shoulder pad for one shoulder, and then the other one will be is blank for the Black Legion symbol. And I'm like, okay, here's the basis of the model. This will work really well. And so as I started kind of posing it with blue tack and stuff and cutting a few things up, the thing I really liked was the axe that I had has a haft that has, where you're gripping it, it has the leather wrapping. Well, in the Chaos Space Marine kit, it's either the Space Marine kit. Yeah, it was the Chaos Space Marine kit. There's a maul, and the maul has kind of a similar wrapping at the bottom of the hand. And so I was able to just cut the axe, pin it. I pinned a tiny axe into the hand, but now the bottom haft is part of the original maul, and the top half looks like the axe, and they match.
Sweet.
Which is just really great, just so perfect.
And then that bottom haft has a little bit of a 40K flair to it, so it doesn't look he's holding a fantasy axe.
And then I had to find a left arm that would work, and then I found one, and I kind of carved up the underside of the shield, and so now he has a Chaos symbol from the Chaos Knights kit shield that he's holding, and I figure I'll treat that as a relic type thing that gives him Terminator-like armor, because if he's known for shipboarding and stuff, he's probably more nimble than a Terminator armor would allow. And so I thought, okay, great, here's the thing. And then he has berserkers with him, and they're just racing through the ship. And that's how he's become so good at shipboarding actions.
Right.
That was my whole philosophy.
Right. And there's, narrative, all kinds of narrative beats to support the build.
Right. So that was how I came out with the build. I'm super happy. I've posted pictures of the way he looks. I'm excited to paint him, to be honest, but I've got a lot in the order of painting. But most of it is black. So it's kind of what I'm working on right now, except for that shoulder pad. The other thing I'm very excited about, honestly, is transfers now. Now that I know how to do them and do them well, I'm like, what else can I stick a transfer on?
Yeah, no, once you get it down, I will, buyer beware, or otherwise, newer transfers work a lot better than older transfers.
Oh, those newer transfers are so good.
The degree of difference is alarming. I just recently got one out from the 90s, and after 2 or 3 dissolved, because I was putting numbers on a Blitz bowler.
Oh, there you go.
And 2 or 3 of them just flat dissolved in the water.
Oh, my goodness.
As I pulled them off the sheet, like they just
fell apart.
Broke apart. And then I got one down and I was like, why is this thing so thick? I mean, it was like this wedge of plastic that I was putting. I was like, oh my gosh. And the trim around the edge, like the extra flashing of material was, huge. And yeah, it was eye-opening how much better the new transfer material is. It's thinner, it's tighter to the image. It's amazing.
Sure. So the other thing I neglected to mention, I did mention the Khorne banner. Basically, I took the Khorne demon banner, and so it has the Khorne symbol on the top of it, and then I'm going to paint that banner black, but I'm going to kind of fade it to red. But also on that, I'm going to use the Black Legion symbol. One of the new transfers in here is a larger Black Legion symbol. And also they have in there these I guess they're runes. And I think they're supposed to be like Kolchis runes, right? And I'll just put those down the side of the banner using transfers. And I think it'll look fantastic.
Yeah,
I think it'll look fantastic.
Did you do, because it's not sitting right in front of us, did you do a little bit of chain work on him as well? Like a little scale chain?
No, but I bought some scale chain because we did a huge order from Green Stuff World as well. And I saw you guys were getting a chain. And I was like, oh, yes, I should get some chain. And I think I'm going to wrap it around one of his arms, the arm with the axe in it.
Very cool.
Look really, really
a little
cool.
nod to Karn.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool.
Sure. I'm very excited about him, honestly.
Yeah.
So I'll talk about how I'll use them later, but anyway.
So mine started similarly, funny enough, from a very iconic model. I was lucky enough that Mike in our local group had 2 Nazgob orc shaman models.
Okay.
From Fantasy Battle. It's the old kind of old looking orc who's really hunched down and bent and got the really cool ornate staff. And he was getting rid of them. And so I picked both of them up from him and knew all along that the destiny for this model was to get turned into a weird boy.
Yeah.
The reality was my weird boy that I built a long time ago for my 40K army was this really elaborate conversion where the weird boy is floating up on a chain. Usually the weird boy is dragging along 2 grots, but I ended up placing the grots under him and making it look like he's almost floating or flying. And then ran a wire from inside the guy all the way down into the base. One of the grots ended up breaking off. And so now he is very wobbly and makes me nervous every time I use him. It looks really cool because it's literally a floating orc in the air with this grot like getting dragged along below him.
Yeah.
But it is literally a piece of wire running from inside the orc down through a piece of plastic chain into the base through the grot.
Nice.
So it is every bit as wobbly as one little piece of wire could
I think
be.
orc weird boys are one of my favorite of the orc characters, like just in general.
I've slowly come around to them. And now with this guy, I am much more excited.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, step 1 of working on this guy was because it was all metal. And anybody who says I miss the good old days of metal, I appreciate the nostalgia. Any sort of assembly, conversion, or otherwise working with them
Much harder.
is so difficult. So I had to Dremel out. He has this huge backpack on him, and I had to Dremel that away, dig into his waist because that covers up this huge chunk of him. It's clear that the backpack was there to prevent casting problems.
Yeah.
It's covering up an undercut that would have been there. Drilled a hole into the front of his face. Drilled a big hole down the middle of his back. So, because I knew where I was going with this idea. Went bits shopping, much like you did. Went out to the old bits bin and started pulling through orc parts and found some gubbins I liked and some, basically started looking for anything with like an electric ball. The new orc stuff, there's these energy spheres, almost like Tesla coils, but then with like the big electro globe at the top.
I think they're on some guns, right?
Yeah, there's some on, they're all over the place. Anywhere there's a KF, a custom force field, they're on those. Any energy-based weapon has them. The shock attack gun famously has them on the
3
front.
of them, right?
Yeah, spinning with like tendrils coming off. So I looked for those and then knew what I wanted to do was create a weird boy where like these energy receptors were like built into him. Yeah. So that was just the image I started coming up with. And for some reason, I really wanted to gouge his eye out and stick a bionic eye in it. So I cut a Astra Militarum set of binoculars in half and wedged those into the hole I drilled in his head. And then spent some time with green stuff, which is not my favorite material to work
Justin
with.
is really good at green stuff sculpting. I am not so good.
I get by. It takes me some. Well, it's just green stuff. It's not. I love Milliput.
Yeah.
But for the level of detail I needed,
Milliput's the wrong thing.
Wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Because I needed to do torn up cloth around where the thing was going to be sticking out of his back.
Yeah.
And then covering up so it looked like cloth covering the bionic eye that was built into his face.
Yeah.
So it was a fair amount of carving and scraping and drilling and doing all the things that make a conversion. But in the end, I always go back to Anthony is a avid converter. He can't leave a model well enough alone. This is my buddy Anthony who played all that massive Corn Army. The gold standard that Anthony kind of established that we all shoot for is when you get done and you look at the conversion, it should almost, or for him, it should look like something you could buy off the shelf. It should match the GW aesthetic and design principles that when you look at it, you don't go, cool conversion. You look at it and you go, cool model.
Right.
I don't think I got there because the staff is still a little clunky, but as far as like his head and the thing that's sticking out of his back, the giant power receptor that I built into him,
you're happy with that.
I'm happy with that. It's at that place where it looks like, it was funny actually, somebody commented either today or yesterday that they're like, wait, you added that bionic eye? And that's what I was like, yeah.
That's the perfect. That's a great compliment.
Yeah.
The other thing I might add to these little berserkers I've made is we did an order from Green. You think we're sponsoring? We did an order from Green Stuff World. We ordered a bunch of stuff, but now they have those little packs of like chaos symbols or dwarf symbols and there's corn each, Thousand Sun symbol. So I may stick like some of those little corn brass etch symbols on like a leg or something like that on them, just to spice them up a little bit.
Yeah, man, these Forge World bits are every bit as cool as I remember.
They really are.
They're so exceptional.
The one shoulder I didn't use is the old World Eaters shoulder because these aren't World Eaters, right? But I think they're going to be representing Black Legion really, really well. So.
Yeah, this guy's just a hammer, man. The
came out great.
The Havoc legs work so well.
Do you see the axe that I was referring to and how the haft is the same kind of haft? So I was very happy with the way that came out.
Yeah, he's ready to do some damage.
I think so. I like it.
There's no doubt which god he's aligned to.
Right. Okay, good.
I wonder which one he follows with the
awesome.
Giant axe and spikes and horns. And
I don't even know where I got the axe. It's some fantasy axe that I had. It may have been from the
cavalry.
No, either that or the Varangard.
Yeah.
Might be. Yeah. So anyway, I'm super excited about him. I think he looks good. He came out a lot better than I expected. I'm really happy. And then I'm also happy with the way, as I'll talk in a little bit, about his rules. I do need to clean up the underside of his shield a bit. You'll see there, but you don't see that really.
You don't see that. That's fine.
I'll fake it with some green stuff straps so it looks like.
Yeah, if he's got a handle, if you build some kind of handle in there under the shield,
fine.
It'll cover
and that's super
everything.
easy to do with green stuff. So
it's also I love the hornless heads for Chaos Marines.
Yeah.
I don't know why in a weird way without the horns and things they look more savage.
Yeah.
Somehow.
But I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah, that's a cool little unit you put together there, man.
Well, thanks, man. I'm really excited about it. And I'm gonna add, I think a total of 10 berserkers that go with it. And so then I'll have like a little berserker unit. The other thing I like, and I'll talk about it later. Okay, so that's I'm kind of bleeding into the what I want to talk about. So let's talk games played. I actually have not had any games played, though. Tomorrow I am going to play a game against Doug and his Imperial Guard. He has repaired his tanks that got damaged in the move, and he's coming over and we're going to play a game.
Outstanding.
Yeah, I think it's his first 40K game in like a long time. He was looking through Psychic Awakening stuff, and he's like, "Man, I really like this book," and I'm like, I do too. I
am very excited for the beast.
So yeah, we'll take some pictures and stuff, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm very excited.
Send me the pics while I am in meetings at work
all
day tomorrow. That will help.
All right.
I have played though. I have.
Yeah,
played.
you have.
I have.
I was supposed to play a game against Aaron, but he's not done with his enforcers yet.
Well, Aaron,
hurry up!
Campaign is underway.
Mm-hmm.
We might have replacement enforcers coming out of Santa Cruz.
Ooh.
Cliff decided to
really?
pick up some models, and he has got them built. I just need to squeeze a couple of hours where I can go kind of show him. I have a way he can kind of speed paint them and get them knocked out.
Well, if anybody knows about speed painting, it's you.
It is my favorite thing in the whole world. Min-max that painting. But yeah, so we are anxious to see if we can get that going. And Brian picked up some Necromunda stuff too. So
Yeah, well,
well, he does own it.
He owns it.
And he built it. So
I'd love for him to come play it.
we would all love for Brian to come play. All right, so games, Necromunda. It was, if you couldn't tell where that was going, played Necromunda. Matt and I played a game where we did a border dispute. Is that what it's called? Border Dispute is the name of the mission. And Border Dispute's this really fun mission. I played 2 of these. I played one against Matt and one against Josh. A random ganger starts right in the middle. 2 gangers, one from each gang, are right in the middle.
Yes.
And then a few of them are also on the board backing up that guy.
Yes. And then I think you have some in like reserve.
And then others come in the trickle of reserves.
Yes.
And
this was, interestingly enough, this mission, it was probably in the original Necromunda, I would imagine. I don't know enough about the original Necromunda to say, but it is in the Wild West Warhammer game, because Tom and I have played it, and basically it's like the 2 guys of your gang are like they're like having a showdown at the beginning, which is what's going on in the Necromunda one, and the rest of the gang is like showing up. Yeah, as these 2 guys are like facing off. I love it. Thematically, it's very, very cool.
Right. They bumped into each other, and there's some of their cronies are out in the area, or it's just this duel or whatever. It depends on who the 2 guys are.
In the Wild West, it's like high noon. We're gonna like draw.
There it is. It is. So Matt and I battled it out. It was kind of as he put in his notes. I'll use his notes here. It was a masterclass in mediocrity. There was a whole lot of ricocheting and pew off the walls. Like there was a lot of that going on. At the end, though, I continue to press towards, in this campaign, my one goal. I managed to catch all of his dudes. He is the Cult of the Swole Arm Emperor. Yeah. And so he has all his guys are boy somebody. So it's your boy Chad. Oh, God. I caught your boy Chad. So Chad has been captured
Adepticon,
and taken. No, it's lame. He has real life responsibilities.
Who's going to snuggle with Dan Boyd?
I try not to give him too much grief about it, but I'll be sending.
Dan, you got a super fan.
You do, a little bit. You might not know. It is a little weird at times. So anyway, my goal in the campaign, though, is as a Chaos Cult, I'm sacrificing somebody's character. That is happening.
Okay.
I can lose every game after that.
But you'll be happy with that.
But I'll be fine as long as I get to sacrifice somebody. So
you almost did.
I almost got Doug's leader, and then the universe said, no, I don't think so. So your boy Chad has been captured. He's sitting in the holding cell getting ready to be offered up. So the next time Matt and I play, which we're now eligible to do because I played another game. So next time I play, Matt, your boy Chad's on the line.
You have to do like the prisoner rescue mission.
Right.
So your point there, which is an important one, is you can't play multiple games against the same person in a row for them to count. You have to have an intervening game between games against another opponent.
Right. And that's an us thing. And I don't think it's a permanent thing, but I like it a lot, especially since we're spread over the hill, as we call it here. Right. The gap, geographic gap.
45-minute gap. Us,
despite if we could go in a straight line, it would be a 15-minute drive.
Yes, for sure.
Be so nice, but that's not how geography works. Anyway, so it was this kind of slap fight that when the dust settled, there were a few, couple problems here and there, but more or less we were okay. Although Matt did seriously injure my leader. So the butcher and the butcher's boy, they went down and they were going to miss their next game. So when I played Josh, I didn't have my leader. And it did matter. It was noticeable because I built him to be this close combat stud, and he draws fire pretty well for the rest of the war band. So when I didn't have him out there, I really felt it. And man, did I feel it when Josh's witch special Deloc.
Oh, he has like the Psyker
of Doom. Holy cow, that thing is nasty. It's just picking guys off. That dude's that dude. It ended up being, though, this really bloody fight, even though I don't think I took anybody I think I took like one guy out of action, but they kept bottling out because they bottled early. They kept losing their nerves tests and running off. So at the end of the game, it literally came down to he had one guy left on the board and everybody else had run off, which was not great for me because it meant, potentially somebody of mine got captured, and we each lost a player dead, a ganger.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we both lost.
That's expensive.
Yeah, and they were both champions. So we both lost.
Now's my time. You want to play a game?
Oh, the butcher's back. So yes, I do. So yeah, Brother Preacher Blade for me is he died. He was my infiltrating shotgunner. He died dead.
Oh boy.
And the one I really love is Josh's champion infiltrator with a web gun who is a real rotten
I hate
jerk.
that guy. I hate that guy so much.
Dead.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
He's just gonna buy another web gun.
Well, it's probably true.
But so we talk about this in the next episode.
Yes.
Because I have the interview with Dan and Campbell. Matt's gonna love that episode. Love it. And one of the things I talked about is during our game day, like I like this part of the game, like the game wraps up and you now do all these things, and there's like this management piece. But I felt like during the game day, like we rushed through that piece and like I didn't get to savor it.
Right. What everybody else did or didn't do.
Yeah.
So I will say one of the funny things is you'll note most of what I'm talking about here, though, is actually not in-game stuff.
Right.
It's post-game
It's all
stuff.
after the game. Yeah. The guy died.
Yeah.
After the game, we determined the guy died.
Yeah.
Although apparently you're supposed to determine that right then.
Right.
Is what
And
Campbell was
mine did during the game. My dude died. The really sweet part was after Josh killed one of my guys, I was feeling a little salty and wanted bad things to happen to him as well. His guy went down due to a really group effort by my gang that eventually was just a whole lot of kicking a guy on the ground to get rid of him during the game. So they had to drag him off to the dock. Wasn't a very good dock. So he paid to have the guy die.
Oh,
which
really?
was really sweet.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. So he took him to the dock, and the dock was a bad one, and the guy died on the surgery.
So not only did he pay the money,
Yeah.
the guy died.
And it was a champion.
Nice.
I shouldn't be that happy, but
No, you should be.
eat one, Josh.
Yeah.
Also, I hope you feel better soon.
I hope he does too.
I do too. It sounded horrible. Yeah, but that was it. Couple games of Necromunda, and I played this fantasy football game you may have heard of. Played some of that. It was fun.
All right. Well, cool. So let's do this. Let's take a short break. Then we'll come back. We'll talk about a little more in depth the characters that we've built, how we're going to play them on the table, all that kind of stuff, and then we'll kind of move into the wrap up. So we will be right back.
Hey guys, I'm Caleb,
And this is Kat.
and we are CK Studios. We want to invite you and your friends to come paint with us at one of our exciting and fun-filled airbrush and hobby weekenders. Our weekend workshops are 2 days of intense hands-on training, working directly with and learning from some of the top gaming artists in the industry.
Whether you're brand new to miniature painting or an experienced veteran that wants to up your game, CK Studios has the workshop for you. Our workshops cover everything from learning the basics and building confidence in airbrushing, all the way up to creating that centerpiece model for your army or display case.
For more class info and our upcoming schedule, you can find us on Facebook at CK Studios Come Paint With Us, or register directly at ckstudios.bigcartel.com.
If you can't find a class near you, that's okay. Just contact us and we'll bring a workshop to you.
All right, we're back, and we're going to start our discussion here a little more in depth about the model, but I realized I forgot to tell you the final part of my story that I swore I had bought Lord Zoo for. I looked everywhere, I couldn't find him. I kit bashed this whole guy. I looked to the left on my desk that I'm working on, and there he is.
Just right out.
Sitting there in the package, right there, the whole time. I looked everywhere but in my workspace, and that's where he was. And I was so upset. I was
Well,
like,
now you can still do that conversion.
well, now I can do something else with him.
Yeah.
You know, it's still a friggin' amazing model.
It is an amazing model. Is he kind of getting small?
I don't know. I have to see how he looks compared to.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think he was fairly large for a Terminator when I initially had him, because I had him when I had the World Eaters. So I think he sizes up against the Terminators just fine.
All right.
So I'll use him for something.
I'll check it out.
Anyway, okay, so let's talk a little more in depth about our pick, you know, for the character and a bit of their backstory.
Yeah.
So why don't you go first?
All right. So I took this as like, let's keep the narrative juices flowing and let's
Okay.
see what we can come up with. So buckle in, kiddos. We got a little bit of story time coming your way. All right.
Story time.
So I designed a weird boy that I am calling Gort Bone Man Frag Killin'. So that is his name.
All right.
Gort the Bone Man Frag Killin'. Now, Gort was actually originally a Big Mech, and his specialty, his expertise as a big, swollen up, giant Big Mech orc boy was that he loved to do experimentations on grots with energy-based weapons. There was nothing that made him happier than harnessing up a giant ball of lightning warp energy, cramming a grot into it and just zapping it at the opponents at any other of those weakling other races.
Okay.
So he spent years working under various Bad Moon bosses that would all be trying to outdo for the most ostentatious weapon they could come up with. Now, Gort learned through all this and he got better and better, but then eventually he found himself working alongside Big Mech McGrock. Now, if you remember back to episode 187, which were the Xenos champions, I talked about Badrock there, and Big Mech McGrock is the Big Mech that eventually kind of ends up working with Badrock. And if you want to hear a weird conspiracy theory of hypothetical future past,
okay,
jump in at the end of episode 187 and watch my hamster spin. Anyway, so Gort ends up working alongside Big Mech McGrock, and and eventually in working with him, it's how he develops his weird boy powers and how he eventually develops the nickname Bone Man. So Big Mech McGrock works closely with Gort to develop a new and more powerful kind of teleported technology. This is what they're going for. And this is what McGrock's known for, is teleported technology. And what they want to do is harness Fragkilla's electrical weapons and blend them with teleporting weapons so they could literally pull the lightning from the sky and teleport it into bastions and giant war machines.
Okay.
So they'll like blast them with lightning from the inside. This is their orky dream. So the two of them work close side by side with developing this technology until finally they have their opportunity at the Battle of Squigblow's Hate. Now, Boss Squigblow and his hate, as it was known as this battle, actually is because he's at this thing known as Byerglum's Wall, where there's this huge Astra Militarum force dug in at this giant defense line.
Okay.
And no matter what he tries, Squigblow can't break the line. So eventually, in his frustration, he demands McGrock and Fragkilla to unleash their newest, most impressive thing that they're working on. And even if it's not fully ready, just go for it. So sure enough, McGrock and Fragkillen have this new weapon that they're calling the Stormbringer. On copyright infringing.
Okay, slightly.
The two mechs have worked feverishly to unleash this new weapon. But for the weapon to work in its prototype state, a lightning rod has to be planted into the target of the wall. That way the warp arc from the Stormbringer to the lightning rod can be delivered. Well, Fragkillen, in his massive swollen form of bionics, says he'll take the job of leading the charge with the boys to implant the lightning rod into the wall, and then McGrock will stand back with the artillery line and let loose when he gives them the signal to let loose the warp arc that will pull the lightning from the sky to blast apart the wall. Everything's going great. Fragkillen leads the charge of his men right up to the wall. He plants in the lightning rod, and this massive vortex of warp and wog energy is combined through the Stormbringer to create this coruscating tunnel of lightning from the sky. It arches towards the lightning rod, and that's surrounded by thousands of screaming orcs and their wog energy. The combination of electrical energy, teleporter warp tech, and the raw wah energy has incredibly explosive results. And when the soil's settled and the dust cleared, there's a massive breach in Byerglum's Wall. Debris and carnage just litter the earth everywhere. Now, the cannon had worked beautifully, but not as intended, because standing, clutching the lightning rod, Gort Fragkillen stood at the center of this with a smoldering ear-to-ear grin. But much to his surprise, he was utterly alone. Surrounding Gort in the debris were the smoking and crackling skeletons of thousands of boys who had stormed the wall with him. The cannon had literally channeled not only the boys' wah energy, but also their very flesh into a massive projectile. And as a result of this calamitous malfunction or beautiful working of the Stormbringer, Gort Fragkillen would become known as the Bone Man for being surrounded in this field of bones. Also, because he was severely injured by this massive blast. The result of having this being at the fulcrum of such destructive forces, Gort was actually left hunched and weakened and shriveled. He's a mere husk of his once former glory in his physical form. In the long years since, he's come to realize that his life is just one of perpetual sadness and discomfort. His body is actually, from the lightning, is mostly fused by these massive forces unleashed, and the bionics he once had are basically welded within him. So he's, perpetually hunched over and uncomfortable. But it is as if all that weren't enough, he also lives with a crippling depression of knowing that he will never experience that thrilling exhilaration of being surrounded by that level of electricity and WOG energy like he was at the day that they breached Byargolm's wall. So there was one last effect, though, was the raw infusion of those energies which destroyed the wall awakened latent warp talents within him. And he no longer needed goblins and cannons to harness the power of the sky and warp energy. He could now be a conduit for those forces himself. He had literally become fused with the energy that he loved, albeit at an occasional cost to anybody standing too near him when he lets loose those powers. So due to the tragic events at the big battle of Squigblow and the occasional toll Fragkillen takes when he channels his power, he is now known as the Bone Man. So that is my weird boy.
All right.
Bone Man Fragkillen.
All right. I like it.
There it is. What you got?
I like it. Well, okay. My background is not self-created like yours. And I think this is interesting because this is how you can kind of interpret different things, right? Like you can create your own character. You can take a character there is not a model for and build that character around that model. And you can give these things kind of your own spin. So the Hounds of Abaddon, as I've mentioned before, are this chaos war band that worship Khorne. And they are led initially by a chaos warlord named Urkrathos. And Urkrathos is he carries the title of the Master of the Hounds of Abaddon and the Lord Purgator of the Chosen of Abaddon. He's one of Abaddon's lieutenants. And so during the 13th Black Crusade and during the battle on Cadia, what ends up happening is there's this massive fleet battle. And again, talking about a guy worshiping Khorne being the leader of the fleet, there's this battle going on, and using his ship, he's able to destroy these other two ships as he's surrounded, like in such a spectacular fashion, and the destruction of life, it pleases Khorne so much that Urkrathos ascends to demon princehood right there.
He gets the golden ticket.
Yeah, he gets the golden ticket. Good job. You are now a demon prince. They go down to the planet. He's fighting, against the Imperial Guard. He's slaughtering thousands, hundreds of them, whatever, lots.
Doing what guardsmen do well, die.
He's doing what he's doing. He's killing Mechanicus forces. Everything's going great until Celestine and the sisters show up. And they slay Urkrathos and hurl his body off of the walls down to below. Now, he's a demon prince now, so he will eventually come back. Who knows when? But he's slain during the fall of Cadia. Well, when he's slain, who takes his place? Threxos Hellbreed, who's kind of next in line for ascension with the Hounds of Abaddon. And Threxos takes over as Abaddon's lieutenant for he's one of the chosen of Abaddon. So Abaddon kind of has this group around him that are his four greatest champions. Threxos is that one. He's the admiral of the Black Legion's Black Fleet. He is also the new master of the Hounds of Abaddon Warband, and he replaces Urkrathos as the Lord Purgator of the Chosen of Abaddon. So now he ascends to that position, replacing this guy. Now he is well known for initiating these spectacular boarding assaults. There's not a lot of information out there about him other than that. So again, as that kind of informed how I built my guy, I felt like this is a cool thing. I actually had completely forgotten that the original guy was slain. And so as I started kind of well, who is the master of the Hounds of Abaddon? I'm like, oh, he's dead. Oh, wait, there's this other guy. Okay, cool.
Sweet.
And actually I saw this as an opportunity because we don't know anything really about him. I could kind of give it my own spin.
Yeah, which is always what you're looking for. And narrative beat that of Urkrathos versus, Threxos could be coming if
could absolutely come.
Right.
That could happen. Also, maybe he's got a grudge on his shoulder now, a chip on his shoulder about Sisters of Battle or Celestine specifically, or something along those lines. Right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot you can do with that.
Yeah.
There's a lot you can do.
The lieutenants I always find to be much more interesting than the marquee characters, simply because, exactly as you said, there's that room to put your own spin on it, to put your own beat on it.
I think that's why you're going to like Talon of Horse.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
I think so.
We'll see.
So yeah, that's him. Very, very excited about how he came out. And as I mentioned before, ever since I started the Black Legion, I knew I wanted to build this kind of spokes of the wheel,
right,
of the Black Legion. And so this is really kind of the first spoke of that wheel that I'm doing. And I'm very excited with the way he has come out so far.
Right. There's such a neat beat there about, like, with Chaos, the creating, to a degree, the Soul Grinder project I worked on of the four, as you said, the spokes of the wheel, the four horsemen, if you will, he's got these four lieutenants, and one is for each god, and what's that going to look like?
Right.
And then especially with Black Legion, getting to play with that in the future. I mean, it's no wonder that character appealed to you, that you're like, I want to start doing that.
It'll totally change up the way the army plays too.
Absolutely.
If I use him as the HQ, all of a sudden I've got a totally different flavor on this thing. So
absolutely.
Should be cool.
So why did I why
this hero? What was it about this guy?
So literally, I just needed a new Weird Boy, as I said. Like, I'm terrified now of using the Weird Boy I have. Every time I move him, I'm sure it's going to be
fragile.
The end of that conversion, and it's not one I want to revisit and rebuild. Like, rebuilding that inner working frame would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
But then the pathway that I kind of ended up taking to end up with that goofy story, and what he looks like, it was interesting today to kind of meta look back on, like, well, how did I end up with that? The first beat was, like, exactly as I said, that Mike in Santa Cruz had this awesome old model that I was like, that's the coolest orc wizard they've ever made. I'll have one.
Right.
Okay, what can I do with it? And the way his head was shaped, I knew I wanted the bionic eye. The idea, once I started looking through my bits, of adding all these power conduit orbs into it really worked for me, for, like, okay, a Weird Boy, he's got these spheres that are pulling power into him. That makes sense. And then I got him finished up and I posted him online. And actually, one of the comments from James Conway that was about the model, he said something to the effect of, "This guy needs a hug." And I didn't think much of it. I was like, yeah, he does look kind of grumpy. And then I moved on, and I kind of went back and looked at it, and I was like, actually, he looks sad. And then, like, I messaged James about it. I was like, did you mean he looks sad? And he's like, dude, this is the face of somebody who dropped his ice cream. And he does have this kind of mopey look the way I painted him. And I was like, okay, so I've got
how do I work with
kind of small orc? Because then I set him up next to my I set him up next to my big mech that I converted, and he's like half as big.
Oh, he's got to be tiny compared to
holy poop. I didn't realize he was so small.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, all right, and he's got these orbs. Why is he so little? So it just became these interesting questions about, why is he sad?
Yeah.
Why is he so small? Why does he have this giant electro skull staff with a lever at the back to turn it off?
He's sad
and on?
because he's in pain all the time.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, he's hurting because he's old and sad. Well, what would make an orc sad? Like, can orcs even be sad? And I was like, yeah, if they can't get their big red shiny button fix. And then I was like, okay, well, he's got a big electrical staff. Well, what happened? Maybe he got hurt messing with electricity, and that's why he's little and hunched over. But that's also why he has these orbs, is he loves working with electricity. And then his name, actually, Bone Man Fragkillin, is a play on Benjamin Franklin.
Oh, got it.
So he has a big lightning staff that he pulls the lightning out of the sky.
Oh, I like it.
And that was it. Was like, once I kind of went, okay, that gets all the beats together, that he used to be this mech. So he's got this gimmicky rod that he uses, and he harnesses lightning. And then I just threw Gort at the beginning because I needed another. Bone Man isn't an orky first name. Right. So I needed a first name. So yeah, Bone Man Fragkillin sounds a little bit like Benjamin Franklin, and a story was born.
Okay.
So,
well, for me, why this hero would appeal, I think I've kind of answered that already. Like, I've been talking about, it was always in the plan. Yep. This would be the case. I'm very happy with the way it's come out. So let's move on to kind of discussing the rules around the hero. Now, we've taken two different approaches here.
Right.
You've taken, like, purely narrative approach. I've taken a little more to the, hey, I can use this guy in any options approach. So let's talk about yours first.
Okay. So old Bone Man Frag Killing here. He is an HQ choice as a weird boy. So that was an important consideration, actually, of part of why this project happened is with the way I like to play my orcs.
Yeah.
There's actually, it's hard to find HQ choices. They don't have a ton of options. If I don't want to field my war boss every single game, which I don't, because narratively, like, why is this guy at every single battle?
Stop that thought for a second.
Yeah.
We know the new Ghazghkull Thraka is coming out.
Yeah.
Dude, you have a thing about not using named
I do.
characters. What do you think? I mean, that model's going to be so superior, dude.
Yeah, I've never fielded Ghazghkull ever because I don't play Goths.
That's true.
I play Bad Moons. It is why I do want to pick up a Bad Ruck though, but he's a freebooter. He's not a Bad Moon, but he would kick it with Bad Moons for sure. I don't know. I mean, I might get it just because
Just to get it.
Model.
Yeah.
And I was remembering while I was working on, Bone Man Frag Killing here that I was like, man, I really like painting orc flesh. It's really,
You have a great
fun.
recipe for it to help me paint my Blood Bowl guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super rewarding.
I don't mean to take you off topic. It's just like that reminded me because you were talking about HQs, and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
the HQ
is
coming,
and he's real good with the way existing dude is real good with the way the rules work. Whatever Psychic Awakening's got,
can you imagine?
Oh my god,
I'm
he's gonna
excited.
be
Okay. Sorry to.
So back to my
I got
much lesser one stomp from Ghazghkull dying Gort Bone Man.
Okay.
All right. So I went with an HQ choice. I'm going to dial him in around 5 to 6 power level, depending on.
This is your estimation.
This is my estimation. He's a regular weird boy is at 3. Right off the bat, I gave him -1 strength and -1 toughness because
he's small and he's been injured.
There it is.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
So, but I do give him a 5 up invulnerable save, which for an orc is a big deal.
Yeah.
But he literally has these power nodes that look like KFF beacons built into it.
Yeah. So maybe he's got a little personal KFF.
Crackling field of injury, electricity around him because electricity and this guy. All right. Real quick, I need to call out one special orc rule because I built it into how he's going to operate.
Okay.
All weird boys have this thing called WOG energy. WOG energy is for every 10 orc boys that are within however many inches, they get a +1 to all their psychic tests.
Okay.
So up to a maximum of 3.
Okay.
So if you got 30 boys, a 30 boy unit or whatever, 30 boys within so many inches of you, you get up to a +3 on your casting test.
Gotcha.
So pretty reliable psychers at that point.
Yeah.
Anytime you go over
3 is huge.
Well, and anytime you go over 12, you perils at all.
Okay. So
Or
3 is
12
huge,
or more.
but dangerous.
But dangerous. And we'll come back to that perils on a 12 or better in a second because I built that in too. All right. So he is built in to be a warp head, which is a level 2 psyker in the old nomenclature. He gets 2 psychic powers a turn. But one of those 2 powers will always be Degreeing Arc. So Degreeing Arc is Ward Charge 7. It's his custom power that he gets to use.
Okay.
It's range 24, and it causes 1 mortal wound to the nearest enemy unit, and it causes 1 additional mortal wound per +1 from the WOG energy rule.
Okay.
So if he's getting maxed
So he
out,
wants guys around him, but he's got to be careful when he's got guys.
so
around him.
he could be doing up to 4 mortal wounds.
Wow.
So that's really, really good.
Yeah.
So that's the 6 power level thing for a toughness 3, 5 up save character.
Right.
But you're going to hide him in a mob. So now that's really, really cool, but it's dangerous. So he also has Degrounding Rod. And if this model suffers any perils of the warp tests, mortal wounds, he rolls a d6, and on a 4 or better, I'm changing that on the fly, on a 4 or better, he doesn't take the mortal wound, but the closest model instead suffers the mortal wound.
So you kind of lookout sir it.
Right.
But old 7th Ed.
Right. But it's the electricity thing that I talked about in his narrative of the electricity shoots off him and nukes guys around him.
Cool. I like it.
It causes
thematically
that issue.
like it.
And then
still look out, sir. That orc's name was Sir.
Yeah. Oh, that's a golden oldie right there. And then his giant, huge staff with the skull on it and the prod and the electroprobe. I made it a super power stabber. So he gets to it's used at his strength, which again is lower. He's only strength 4.
Or 4, yeah.
A stabber is a -2 AP weapon, but I upped it to damage 2 to represent his more aggressive
Got it.
Abilities with electricity. So that's him. In every other way,
I think this is a great character.
I think he's fun.
Yeah, I think this has a lot of fun. It's super thematic. I think, and again, I think this is an example of pure narrative.
Yeah.
Right? Bring him. I like the rules. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. It sounds fun. I love orc stuff like that. So, I think one of the things, not you specifically, but in general, if people are to kind of create their own characters, one of those struggles is to give them the bestest of the mostest, right?
Yeah,
and you offset that here with this minus strength, the minus
toughness. He has 2 powers, but he only really gets one. He's stuck with this one.
Yeah. So, and it's a 7+. That's a high end of the average, right? I mean,
what's to push you to want to add the pluses on,
right?
Because he's doing extra mortal wounds, but he's also going to be nuking orcs around him.
Right. So I think this sounds like a lot of fun. 13-year-old me would have made him more powerful.
Right. Right. And, and that's literally, speaking narratively as somebody who's done a bunch of this stuff, that was one of the things we learned from doing a lot of this is, okay, step 1, what's wrong with him?
Right. Because he's got to have something wrong to make him interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the I play D&D and all my stats are 18.
Right.
Cool. You win. Let's move on. You can't balance it that way. So yeah, having that, I'm going to give him the 2 powers, but he's got to cast this one goofy one. And
well, in my case, nothing's wrong with my guy.
He's perfect.
But I went with pure rules,
right,
on my guy. So
a totally
I
different
used
approach.
Rules and said, okay, this is how I would represent him on the table. Now, if I were playing a total narrative game, I might steal some rules or ideas from other Khorne-based type characters, but this is what I went with. He is he's an HQ choice. He is a Chaos Lord in Terminator armor. Now, obviously, he is not set in Terminator armor. Again, I use his shield to kind of represent the extra armor, and he's bulkier because he's in the Havoc armor.
Right.
So he looks like he stands out from the rest of those Chaos Marines. You're like, oh, that dude is clearly the one in charge.
Yeah, bigger base, huge backpack, giant weapon, shield on his arm.
He's on a 40 millimeter base because that's what Terminators are on. Right, he stands out as a unique looking character. I give him a mark of Khorne, obviously. He has this shield on him, which I use to represent the assistance that he gets. It's I'm calling it a artifact. It's it's not taking the artifact thing. I'm just in the narrative. It's the shield that grants him the additional bonus, making it almost as good as Terminator armor. And so the shield gives him the 2+5+ of Terminator armor, but he also has a sigil of corruption, which gives him a 4+ invuln. So now he's a 2+4+. I think that's pretty reasonably modeled for a 2+4+ kind of guy. And then I thought about giving him, there's an artifact called the Axe of Blind Fury. And it's kind of got that Karn trait where if you roll a 1, you cause a wound to the model near him. But I felt like this guy, who's known for these boarding actions and such, and being the master of the Black Fleet, he's probably a little more tactical than just pure berserker, right?
Sure.
He may have berserkers with him, but he funnels them through his pure, hatred and his pure rage. He can direct them,
right,
and use them much like he uses ships. He can kind of steer them where he wants them to go. But he himself, I see, is more reserved and tactical thinking.
Right.
So instead of that, I can either give him a power axe, which is kind of meh, it's kind of bland. But in the Psychic Awakening book for Faith and Fury, there's demon weapons in here, and one of them is called Ulaka the Black Axe. Right? This axe was found on a demon world resting in a cavern marked with diabolical wards. Thousands of corpses lay at its feet, sacrificial offerings from an unknown warden to appease its hunger. One brave soul now seeks to feed the demon by other means. You can take any model with a power axe, can take this. Force axe or demonic axe only. So it takes this relic replaces the power axe, force axe, or demonic axe, and has the following profile. It's melee, obviously. It's strength of the user. It's AP of 0, and its damage is 1. but when resolving attacks made with this weapon, an unmodified wound roll of 4 or more inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target in addition to other damage. And I thought, that's pretty sweet. And it's more controlled than like the Berserker Rage.
Sure.
Like, I don't see this guy as a Berserker himself.
Right. Does the Chaos Lord rerolls 1s to hit and give that around?
Yep. So not too shabby.
No, I mean, at that point, he's pretty freaking good.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he's hitting on 3 twos. Twos rerolling his misses.
Yeah.
So he's going to hit and then.
Yep.
And then it's on the wound.
Wounds of 4 or more are mortal wounds.
Yeah. Damn. That dude's, I'll have that.
So
sounds good.
Not too shabby.
No.
I like it. I think it represents him really well. And I think that fits. It's in keeping. He's not glued down yet.
No, but that's good. With those rules,
yeah,
I almost want him to have a bigger shield now.
Yeah. I couldn't find a bigger one that I had, so I had to work with what I had at the moment. But I think the Varngard shields are actually bigger.
Yeah, and they got like the spikes growing out the front and stuff.
Yeah.
Might have to track you one of those bad boys down.
If I can find one, I can still pop that off and swap it out. So, but I do like the way he looks. So.
I think he's awesome.
So yeah,
and I love it. That sounds like a boarding lord,
right?
So I was just gonna say captain. I was like, oh no, it's a boarding lord.
So that's my guy. So this has been a great challenge, though, Jody.
Yeah,
I got to tell you, like, I have never converted something this far for me. I've changed weapons. I've done, little things here or there. I have a Karn that's a really converted Karn. But it was really another guy I saw online had made one. I thought it was really cool. I said, hey, can you make me one of these? He told me what pieces he needed. I sent it over. It came back all in pieces because it had not survived the shipping. I really like that Karn. But I'm really proud of this guy. Like I super like this guy. So I think, this has really kind of got me, like it said, I started making the other Khorne guys. I had to swap out, I have to cut off the sword. I have to replace those with axes for the other berserkers.
Sure.
And I really like, I've given some of them the Terminator chain axes, so
they look like they mean business.
They look like they mean business. I like them. So it's really kind of got my juices flowing on stuff like this.
Good. I was realizing as I worked on this latest Weird Boy that I am sure now, all of my orc characters are now like totally custom.
That's awesome.
That they're none of them. And I was just realizing, I was just talking with, I think it was Matt the last time he and I played, and I used my orcs, that I need to retire my war boss, which is kind of sad, but he's also the least converted of all of them. Yeah. He's pretty stock.
Yeah.
Because I want to go in a new direction, to a new war front, to a new story for my orcs. A new leader needs to take their place. So while this didn't send me down that pathway, it definitely got me thinking about, those kind of, how do I make a custom thing and what's it going to look like? And I think that point you brought up earlier about the different ways you find inspiration. You see a bit you like, you see, a need in your army, and like, what would that look like if I did it? Or, in my case, I knew I wanted to work with that model, but literally just when I started finding all those little orbs on the end of those Tesla coils, I was like, oh, that's the look. That's the bits I need.
It's interesting how it can spawn, your thought process.
And for you, it was this shield, this idea of this boarding.
I wanted a dude with a shield.
Boarding.
A chaos guy with a shield. Because I thought it looked cool.
Which I love as especially that he's cornate. I love that particularly because of, again, that thing of, for me, first Khorne is about martial prowess.
Right.
It just serves you to be swole along with your martial prowess. But like that notion of, it's not just blindly run in. It's, it is run in, but it's not blind. It's this very calculated move. And I think the shield's like a great narrative beat for that. So,
thanks, man.
As people are building their conversions, it was fun to see people already starting theirs on the community page.
For sure.
So if you're going to build a character, show us what you're doing. But like try and see what that beat is that inspires
you. For you.
Yeah, it's such a good time. So, it was funny because, like I said, schedule's been kind of nuts, but this was like a really welcome reprieve to just sit down and be like, what did I come up with?
Yeah, it is kind of cool.
And flex that.
So great idea.
Creative thing.
And I actually made the challenge for the first time.
Hey, there you go.
And went overboard because I was like, I'm going to do a bunch of berserkers.
And you got it done
too.
Quick.
Oh, yeah, I was very interested in it.
Oh, yeah, you posted, you're like, bam, there. And I was like, I have not started.
I actually wanted to prime him and stuff and maybe even start painting them, but I just ran out of time. And plus then I got sidetracked by doing the Berserkers, and I'm like, oh, I'll do them all together.
Well, the challenge was just to do a conversion, and
Right.
you did 5.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're bit swaps, but they count.
They are bit swaps.
They count.
They are
The
bit
Terminator fist gets you over the line of just plug and play.
That's true.
So, I mean, you win extra.
All right.
I
Yay,
mean,
me.
Mine's painted. It's done.
Yeah. So you win ultimately. Yours is playable right now.
But so are we going to wait till a full episode to revisit what's next in the challenge pool?
I think we should.
Okay.
I think we should. Yeah, we'll do that.
Well, you and I think, get to say we're 2 for 2, and everybody else is 0 for 2.
I'm 1 for 2. I failed the first one.
Okay.
I came in late on the first one. And Justin did do his
That's true.
his Terminator.
Yeah,
So Justin, I don't know if he's converted, but dude, that guy's converted so much stuff. It's
But did he do it
crazy.
for this?
No. So anyway, let's do this. We're gonna take a short break, and then we'll come back and close out the show.
If you're a true follower of chaos, enjoy killing Tau scum, fry devilfish for breakfast, drink the blood of fire warriors, collect the bones of Kroot fodder, desecrate the cockpits of mantas with demonic sigils, sing songs of chaotic praise and joy, when berserkers chain axe overwatching broadsides, Helldrake Bellflame shield drones into flying discs of spinning fire, and just all around bask in the path to glory, then the Shrine of Chaos podcast is a must-listen for you. I'm Mini Wargamer Dave from MiniWargaming.com, and I invite you to be a champion of chaos. Listen to the Shrine of Chaos podcast wherever podcasts are downloadable. Thank you, independent characters, for allowing this message from the Eye of Terror.
All right, so thank you for listening to episode 202.5. I had to get
40K
something
coming
out
at
there.
you.
I was feeling really bad that we were running late, and I was like, Josh. And then when Josh was like yesterday, he's like, guys, I'm still not really feeling like, well, can we push this off? I'm like, oh no, I have to get something out there. So
It worked out, man.
but I actually really enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun to talk about. I appreciate the challenge, man. I like I was saying during the break, I really had a lot of fun with this.
Looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, we gotta think about what the next challenge is. We'll think about that.
I have thoughts.
You got to pick this one. I got to pick the first one. I think whoever the guest on the next show or the third chair, it's gonna be Josh. So
So curveball.
yeah,
In 2 weeks, we're going to be at Adepticon.
yeah, I know.
So
Maybe we.
I don't want to record the Necromunda episode at Adepticon.
No, we're not. But I don't think we're gonna wait 2 weeks to record that episode. I want to get it out there before Adepticon.
Okay, I might not be on that episode. That my schedule is bad. So
Jody,
make it happen.
we might have to move it.
All right, Josh, pick a freaking challenge.
No, you know what? I got a better idea. What if, because we're going to have Wednesday night, the meet and greet.
Mm-hmm.
What if we have the Patreon members that come to it submit what they think the challenge should be,
I love this.
and they can either communally decide or we draw one out of a hat from all the suggestions.
I love everything about that.
That's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah.
All right, that's what we will do at
So-
Adepticon at the Wednesday event, which is going to take place after the GW reveal thing. So there'll be a lot to talk about after that.
For sure.
So very cool. That's what we'll go with.
There it is. Non-army specific challenge.
All right, as you know, we have a Patreon. I just talked about it. It's great. It's going great. I love it. The people there are fantastic. The people in the Discord channel are just amazing. It's super fun. This last 2 weeks has been a nightmare for me, so I kind of pop in and pop out when I can, but I tend to hang out there more when I can. And we have Facebook page, we have Facebook group, we have a lot of fun. It's a great group.
Yeah, that
We were
community
just
is-
talking about somebody who made a post today. It was kind of inappropriate to the theme of the thing, and then they realized it and self-policed it and pulled it down and sent me a message and said, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I didn't think about this." And I was like, "No problem, man. Thanks."
Yeah,
Thanks
and
for-
cool for just going,
yeah,
my
I
bad.
appreciate it. Not even a problem. So
Not at all.
I love that group.
Yeah, it's been really
super
fantastic.
supportive. So, you got anything you want to add before we move on? You want to pitch?
I can't wait for 2 weeks, man.
your Blood Bowl show?
I don't have a Blood Bowl anything.
No, you have a Blitz Bowl show.
Do I?
Yeah.
Okay. But I can't wait for Adepticon.
Okay. You're so.
I'm not taking the bait.
All right. Fine.
I won't.
Don't talk about it.
I'm not.
All right.
Fine.
Yeah. Adepticon right around the corner, man. I cannot freaking wait.
Because it's a week that my schedule is blocked to do something fun.
I'm just so excited.
Yeah, it's gonna
can't
be amazing.
Even, yeah. Should be awesome.
We need to get some practice games in, I think.
We better figure out what we're doing. Okay, so that's what we're going to spend the next 2 weeks.
That's what, if you don't hear from us, we're in the warp.
If we can squeeze out the Necromunda episode between now and then, we will do so. If not, we will have an Adepticon episode. We will record a Necromunda. Look, it's
Content's coming.
It's up in the air. It's a little flexible. Please bear with me. I apologize. It's all Josh's fault.
Couldn't have said any better than that.
Perfect. Okay, so on that note, this is Carl.
This is Jody.
And we're coming to you from the Astronomicon, where you can convert your way to happiness.
And you can build the narrative any way you want.
There you go. All right, we will see you guys soon. This episode of The Independent Characters is protected by the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find information on the front page at theindependentcharacters.com.